Ladies and gentlemen, to moderate this color of conversation, please welcome board-certified OB-GYN Dr. Maline Sutton.
Good evening, everyone. Can y'all hear me? Okay, thank you for joining us this evening. Wasn't that a powerful film? Please give the entire crew another round of applause. Okay, you're in for a great conversation this evening, so I'm going to get started by bringing out the rest of our illustrious panel. Please, in this first seat, Alana Isola Daily. She is one of the associate producers for this film, The Ebony Canal, and a mom. Next, we have Gabby Albert. She is the executive director of For Care for Moms. Next, we have Brenda Gilbert. She is an executive producer for The Ebony Canal. And last but certainly not least, Mr. Eay Alquiva, the director of The Ebony Canal. Not the robot.
What's up, everybody? So good to be here. So good to be here. Thank you all for being here.
Yes,
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you. So again, another round of applause. Wasn't that awesome? An outstanding film. This is probably my third time seeing it, and each time it just fills me up. It's an outstanding job. Excellent, excellent. So before we get started, I wanted to just cover a couple of points about why this film is so important. Many of you might hear different stories on the news, you might read different things in periodicals, but what's going on in terms of some of the data? So as a board-certified OB-GYN physician, I want to make sure you guys understand how important these data points are. So when you look at numbers, and we get most of our data from the CDC, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, Black women in the United States are more than 3 to 4 times as likely to die during childbirth and in the year following childbirth compared to non-Hispanic white women. I want to repeat that, 3 to 4 times as likely to die compared to non-Hispanic white women. Black women are. Another important data point for you guys to be aware of, Black infants are more than twice as likely to die before their first birthday compared to white infants. When you look at graphs and you look at data, sometimes people think, oh, these are recent data. Maybe these data have just been happening since the COVID pandemic. The data in terms of the inequalities between Black mothers and white mothers in this country has gone on for decades since we started collecting data in this country. So we're talking about over 6 to 7 decades of data in terms of this disparity being present. When you look at data for the United States, because despite what's going on, we are one of the most industrialized nations in the globe, across the globe, the United States maternal health crisis is the worst when you look at other industrialized countries around the globe. So those are very important things for you to understand. And when we do this maternal health work, it's with the goal, of course, of trying to close some of those gaps, whether it's through storytelling, whether it's through clinical advocacy, whether it's through community-based work. One other important point that I want you guys to know and understand, and this is also based on CDC data, over 80% of these maternal deaths are preventable. And so when you look at the main causes of these deaths, you have things related to hemorrhage, you have things related to infections, things related to hypertension. So there are things that we can control and manage and help make sure that more of our moms are doing okay. They are being more healthy in their pregnancies and after their pregnancies, and also being able to get the care they need. So with that said, as you can see, when you hear about those data, it's really, really important that we tell these stories, and we tell them in a way that is honest and truthful and powerful, and certainly in a way that can resonate with everyone, whether they're in academia, whether they're out in the community, or whether they're working directly in clinical medicine and research. So, for this conversation today, I love, one of the things that I love about the Ebony Canal is that it really does a good job of centering the voices of the moms. And so I want to start this conversation by starting with our mom. Alana, I don't know if you guys recognize her. She's one of the moms in the film, in the Ebony Canal.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Thank you so much, Alana, for being here, for sharing your story. I know that it was not easy. And so I want to direct this question to you, and I'd love to hear your thoughts about this. So first of all, thank you for sharing your story. There is such a vulnerability required, not just with going through the journey of motherhood and becoming a mother, but also with then sharing that journey with all of us, with the world. And so I'd love for you to talk about how did you and the other mothers navigate that process, that journey of sharing your stories. And the second part I'd like you to answer is, were there any particular moments when it was very, very hard to share your journey on film?
For sure. That's a wonderful question. First, I would also like to thank you and all the amazing things you do as an OB-GYN.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. Clap, please. But yes, for me, I'll speak for myself. It felt as if I was doing a video journal. Throughout my pregnancy, I think you could see it as well in the film. I did a written journal, and that was more for Leilani. It was the highs, the ups of the beauty of the pregnancy. But when I was asked to do this film, I was forced to really self-reflect and be honest with myself about the struggles that I was going through. And that's something that's a little new for me. My job is a journalist, my day job is a journalist, so I'm used to asking questions and knowing how to ask questions to get the story, to get other people's stories. But for me to have to self-reflect and not be defensive and not have to look prim and proper when the cameras were on was a very new and very humbling, but also very cathartic experience. And I think a lot of the other mothers felt the same. You saw a lot of tears, you saw a lot of smiles and laughter, and I think the way that Eay asked these questions, it really allowed us to be free. And with freedom comes pain, but it also comes an insurmountable amount of joy, so.
Awesome, thank you.
Alana.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Next, I'm going to go to you, Brenda. You are one of the people that helped make sure this film made it. Brenda, as you guys heard in the introduction, is an executive producer. She has worked on things, and please raise your hand if you've heard of some of these films. I've seen the first two that I'm going to mention, Queen and Slim, one of the best movies ever made.
Queen and Slim.
Awesome, awesome. What about Judas and the Black Messiah? Outstanding.
Let's go.
Yes, yes, outstanding films. Respect.
Yeah.
Yes, outstanding. So, Brenda, when I think of those films, and I think of the work that you did and how important you thought it was to do the Ebony Canal, can you talk with us a little bit about why it was important for you to be a part of this film, the Ebony Canal? And another question I have for you is, when you were thinking about how you were going to support this film and make sure that it came to light, do you see any similarities between some of the other films you've worked on, like Queen and Slim and The Black Messiah, in respect?
Absolutely, I'll answer it. First of all, it's a twofold question for me, or an answer. I believe in Eay. Eay is my chosen family. He is a beacon of light, hope, and joy. And not to mention a brilliant filmmaker, I'll say it again, multi-Emmy Award-winning filmmaker. Give it up.
Eay.
Yes, yes. The second part of that is that when I look at something, I look at the emotional resonance that something has. And when I look at this film, it bridges three things: art, policy, and activism. It also gives Black women, Black maternal women, a voice. Not as passive protagonists, but this is something that can humanize data that's really important in terms of ensuing what we need to do to make change. The other thing is that it demonstrates that films are a tool for change and advocacy, and all of us in this room, not just all of us on stage, are agents, and we can do things that can really push the needle, that can move the dial, and to give us voices to uplift everyone.
Okay, Brenda?
Excellent. Thank you so much for that, Brenda. Gabby, I'm going to go to you next. I've seen you out and about sometimes in Atlanta, and as executive director for Cure for Moms, I know that you do a lot of amazing local work. So what I would like to talk with you about is some of the work that you guys do. You guys work on maternal health not only locally, but also in terms of congressional hearings. So my question for you is also twofold. One, can you tell us some, please, about the current projects that you're doing for maternal health and paternal health? And two, what can we all do in support of current maternal health legislation with everything going on?
Thank you. So at For Cure for Moms, our 3 pillars are educate, advocate, and legislate. And so we have programs and platforms across all of those. Bringing awareness, which is what Eay has done so eloquently, is one of the biggest things that we need to do. So participating in these screenings and getting the word out there, because people just don't know. But our biggest and our newest program is really focused on advocacy. And as you mentioned, 84% of these deaths are preventable. I'm a previous corporate executive. If you went to any CEO and gave them an 84% diagnosable problem, please believe that brand, whatever would be sold, they would take it in a heartbeat. So we know, with all the stats and all the data, 6 years of it, they don't care. So we had to say, what can we do to effectuate change? Because the system has to be broken. But while the system is slowly being broken, we said, what can we do differently? Well, women's health is not run by women. It's run by men. And our health rights are being taken away. So first of all, we practice that maternal health, it's not a women's right. It's a fundamental human right. And with that, we said, well, if men are going to make these decisions, if men are going to make these decisions, well, why don't we leverage men? Charles Johnson, our founder, is a lived experience. He knows the pain of losing his wife. He's raised a 9 and 10-year-old boy since 18 months and 12 hours old. And so he did everything right, but the hospital systems failed him. So we said, why not take his pain and his lived experience and leverage that? So we created For Cure for Dads. It is the first ever website and app dedicated to men on their pregnancy journey. And yes, I said men on their pregnancy journey because they're part of it too. Everything in maternal health and infant health has always been focused on the mother and child, as it should be. However, that's a dyad. Where's the third piece? By adding men to that equation, we create a triangle, a trilogy, a triad that we believe can change the world. So we've created For Cure for Dads. It's an app. You can download it on Apple, Google, and we use the locker room theme to get men and to understand this entire pregnancy journey. So instead of trimester 1, it's Q1. Let's talk to you from pre-game and warm-ups, family planning. Q4, postpartum. What are the things that you can do? When you have to go to that hospital, do you know the birth plan? Do you feel comfortable pushing back against a doctor? We're going to practice all those things up front. And so we believe that that will effectuate change. And then it also brings into the more men we get involved, then we also can take to Capitol Hill to change. And we've actually done that with our group of advocates twice this year. Eay was there because when men talk, men are going to listen. So let's leverage that. We decided to flip it on its head. And so with that, the 2 pieces of legislation that we heavily focus on are the Black Maternal Health Momnibus and the Dads Matter Act. And so both of those bills have been introduced into Congress. The Maternal Health Momnibus should be reintroduced this year. So you can call your senators and your and your representatives, definitely the Republicans, we need to get on them, because they want to talk about pro-life, but what we got to make sure that a mom lives. To have a nuclear family, the mother needs to live.
Oh.
100%.
And then the Dads Matter Act, which is actually a bipartisan bill that was introduced by Marco Rubio while he was a senator and Raphael Warnock, and it's just been reintroduced, and they got another Senate sponsor. And so you can go to Fork Here for Moms, write us, we can help you get letters, but let them know that those two bills should be passed into law immediately, because we need to make sure that the money, the research, and the Momnibus bill is a comprehensive set of 13 different acts, looking at everything to make sure that all women, but specifically Black and brown women, go home safely.
Thank you so much for that, Gabby. Did y'all write it down? forkhere4moms.com.
Yes. And on all platforms, too.
Yes.
Boom.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you. Eay.
What's up?
What's up? You told this story so powerfully, but also so delicately. Now, I can tell you as an OB-GYN physician, I've seen a few Black maternal health films, but yours always stands out to me as the one who most successfully and most delicately centered the mother's voices. Everything else pales in comparison to your story with that, the way that you did that. So, and you did it unapologetically, you know? So my question for you, Eay, is also twofold. One, what moved you to tell this story? And two, when you decided to tell this story, how did you reach the places that you went to with colors, the lighting, the water, everything, the narration? Tell us a little bit about that, please.
Wow. Thank you so much, just all of you, for being up here. You're my sheroes, for sure. First, my first question is, I want to shout out Janice Burley of the August Wilson African American Cultural Center. Right here, boom, boom, bing, bing. Janice believed in me in a way that no one else really believed in me to tell this story. And with the generous support of the Richard King Mellon Foundation, I was able to jump off the cliff and allow God to be my parachute as I landed. We shot this over 2 years because we shot from conception, the whole entire 9 months of pregnancy, all the way up to the kid's first birthday. That takes patience. Now, there were some individuals that wanted me to do this movie in 3 months. I said, you can't rush telling this story the right way. They've been rushing Black women for centuries.
Absolutely.
So I said, hold up. If you rush wine, you'll end up with grape juice. And Black women don't deserve grape juice. They deserve fine wine. You see what I'm saying? So when I thought about this, I had to first think about the name, the Ebony Canal. Ebony being a dark brown shade or a black color. Canal when you connect one body of life to another body of life. The undercurrents that Black women have been going through, pun intended. Allowing us to be a vessel or an ark along the way. But also making sure that we do what we need to do from an artistry standpoint to marry clinical with cultural. We didn't want this film to be something on public access television that, you just watch once and you keep it moving. I specifically wanted Black women to swim in water. And I specifically pay very close attention to the soundtrack. Sweet love at the beginning with the women swimming in the water. That's where we got to start. And then ending the film for the first birthday were kids driving in a Range Rover pulling up. Smiling. You understand what I'm saying? So there was careful curation to this because I just didn't want to make a cute video. I needed to make a very strong documentary. Now, we don't have distribution yet. We're looking for distribution. Keyword yet. But everybody needs to see this film. Am I right?
100%.
So, to land the plane, I'm just a vessel. Sorry, team, my mentors, and I had to use vessel. We have to be a vessel. And every one of you here are a vessel to this film. So whether it's taking a picture, it's free, posting on Instagram, posting on social media, so that we can do what we need to do in order to take this to the next level and establish a new wave of solution-driven practices, pun intended. Shout out to my team. I see you.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you so much, Eay. Alana, I want to come back to you. Because, one of the things that I find is really hard for Black moms in general, but especially Black and brown moms, because they're hit with all these data, the data that we started with, some of the data that's discussed in the movie. And yet we still try to navigate processes with joy. So you now have a baby girl?
Yes.
Okay. So tell us how you were able to find moments and places of joy during your journey. And then for those of us who might have concerns as we hear the data or as we see this film, what you would suggest in terms of helping make sure that Black moms find joy.
That is such an important thing. I talked about this in the film, but I have generalized anxiety disorder, where basically I'm just a naturally anxious person, and pregnancy obviously heightens all of emotions. So I also say in my first trimester, I didn't have, the things you see on TV, the nausea, the taste changes, all of that. I just had pure anxiety because I was told, again, with the data points, when I was 14 and diagnosed with PCOS, the doctor told me I have a very low likely chance of getting pregnant naturally. So I had grown up in a time where I'm supposed to be a teenager thinking about what, boy band I want to listen to or concert I want to go to like, oh God, my next relationship, if it ends in a marriage, I have to tell this person, and all these thoughts kept racing in my head. So that kind of catapulted my anxiety for so long. So when I finally did get pregnant, I didn't want to believe it was true. I took the pregnancy test 8 times just to confirm that it was real. And when me and my husband decided that we wanted to have kids, I was like, okay, we have to go on these vitamin regimens and all of this, and we didn't need to do any of that. Luckily, thank God, but because of that anxiety, it kept dragging me down, and then hearing the statistics on top of that dragged me down further. But what really helped me, honestly, were 2 things. One, journaling, writing letters to my daughter, because even as a mother, you want to shield your child from negativity. So it forced me to put my mindset in a positive light, to say all the exciting things. We saw your heartbeat. You're the size of a grapefruit, X, Y, and Z. And writing that throughout each month of my pregnancy really brought me joy. But most importantly, out of all, I will have to shout out my husband,
Kendrick. Let's go.
My husband has been my rock. For every wave of anxiety I have, he is my steadying current in all of this. And that's another reason why I love this documentary so much, because it showed men and fathers in such a beautiful, positive light as these anchors, and these beings that are protecting the woman. And we don't see that, especially with Black men in film. We always see this negative connotation but Black men are so beautiful, and my husband is just a testament to that. So honestly, seeing the joy through him and having him remind me of that joy and reflect that joy on me, honestly, were the highlights of my pregnancy.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, we are going to start wrapping down. Before I get to the final question, I do want to ask you a question, Gabby, because, real talk, the elephant in the room is that we see a lot of changes happening across the country. And with what you do from local advocacy to national level congressional hearings, what are some of the things you think are important for us to be mindful of as we try to keep Black maternal health on people's radar?
So again, that's why I made the statement about being a fundamental human right. Because you have to take it out the context of women, right? Because unfortunately, women is DEI. Black people are DEI. All right, so we're talking about fundamental human rights, and we actually believe in this climate that you want a nuclear family, you want kids to be born, so then show us the money, do the things that you need to do. So trying to put pressure and flip it on them is one of the ways in which we're trying to do that. And so I think that's where we all have to kind of look at. And so looking at those, you know, with this change in Medicaid and this big, beautiful bill, we went up and we made sure that they understand that, okay, you're going to make it harder to have kids. You're going to cause all the things you say you want, you're going to cause the negative. But being vocal about those things and making sure that we just have to stay top of mind. The other side of it is the first piece of federal legislation Trump actually did sign under his first term. And that was the bill that created the Maternal Mortality Response Team, which collected the data that the CDC now has to show some of these disparities. And so going back to that, because in playing at that heartstring is really where we are really trying to focus on. You know, this year, I think it's very interesting because so much change is occurring. So a lot of legislation is going to be somewhat stagnant because they're going after the big money and things like that. We do hope, though, that next year when things, because the government still has to run, fundamental to what's contrary to how they're acting, right? It still will have to run. And so we are hopeful that towards the end of the year and next year, it'll kind of get back to business with some of those things. But the other thing is local government is where you also have to put the pressure on, because state programs, state funding, and the other areas that we can leverage is they will continue to pay for rural health care because there's rural health deserts, and so leveraging that and because we also are impacted by that as well.
Okay. Thank you so much, Gabby. Final sentence to Brenda, Eay, Gabby, Alana, and then we're out. I see your sign.
All right. You want to go, Brenda? Go ahead. Okay. No, I'll go last. Ladies first.
Ooh, final sentence. I don't want to say be the vessel because I feel like that's a May's thing. But I will say, if you see a mother, let her know that you see her.
So we always say that it takes a village to raise a child. It takes that same village to get that child and that mother safely here and for them to be born. We all play a role. It doesn't matter if you're a mom, an aunt, a godmother, grandfather. Everybody plays a role. So talk to the women in your life and support them.
Amen.
Be the change that you want to see.
Excellent. Thank you.
Follow us on Instagram. And go to our website and log in to our newsletter because we want you to be with us along this journey. Thank you. I got you, Fantasy.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.